And a wonderful good evening good afternoon, from the KXAN Live studios here in Austin. This is Horns Report, and I'm your host, Billy Gates, and with me, as always, KXAN Sports Director Roger Wallace. And Roger, let's get right into it. We've got kind of a packed show here today. Talk about women's basketball team here first. They've got a big one on Wednesday against Oklahoma in Norman. Last time the two teams met, Oklahoma got the Longhorns here in Austin by 4, I believe, 91-87, high scoring game. I mean, is there any reason why there wouldn't be another kind of fireworks filled game there in Norman on Wednesday?
Well, Vic Schaefer's hoping they're not.
Right.
He doesn't hang his hat on even if they win. Usually it's not because the other team scored in the 80s and they scored in the 90s. He'd take it. He'd get out of there as fast as he could. But I think he thinks they can be much better defensively. Interesting week last week with the real struggle against Texas Tech, and then he had some words about effort and the way they played, and then they go to Central Florida and make it look easy against a team they should have made it look easy. Of course, this is the Iowa State game that big part of this current win streak. But yeah, if they can get this one, it's odd because they're number 3 in the nation now, highest ranking since November of 22, but they're number 2 in the Big 12 behind Oklahoma, so they can get in position for at least a share of the Big 12 title. OU's got to go to Kansas to close out this weekend. It's not crazy to think if Texas could win this. KU, they beat K-State, they knock off Oklahoma. Longhorns could be outright regular season champs, but they got to figure out a way. Last year they dominated Oklahoma in the 2 games. I did the game up in Norman, and that place was packed, and Texas quieted that place. Different story this year with what they did to Texas. So we'll see if they can make some defensive adjustments, make life a little tougher on OU, and then what they can do offensively.
Yeah, you mentioned the ranking. Texas moves up 2 spots in the AP poll released Monday morning from 5 to 3. And as you were saying, Oklahoma doesn't get a ton of respect from the poll voters. They're ranked 20th. They at least moved up. I think they moved up 3 spots to 20 there. And it is kind of a weird thing to have the conference leader be, 17 spots lower than another team. But then again, that just kind of tells you how subjective the rankings are.
Yeah, they didn't have anything good in the non-conference. OU, they had a bunch of losses. Texas beat Connecticut in the non-conference and didn't have any losses. So you look at the Texas's losses, only 3 of them. Baylor at home, not a great loss, not a terrible loss. On the road to K-State, a top 10 team, and then to Oklahoma. So odd, yes, for a couple reasons. 1, OU's leading the league. 2, OU beat Texas head-to-head, but there's such a disparity based on what happened in the non-conference.
Last week of the Big 12 regular season for women's basketball, Wednesday, as we were saying, Texas goes to Oklahoma, but then they've got their regular season finale here in town at the Moody Center against BYU, former team of Shaylee Gonzalez.
Yeah, so she got to go kind of home against Arizona, and now she'll get to face her old team. I'm sure there's some that are still around from 3 years ago, but this is a little different, Billy. The schedules they've compacted it so it's not concurrent Big 12 tournaments. The women play first in this United Spirit. Not Sprint Center anymore. Sprint doesn't exist. T-Mobile, but they'll play first, and then the men will play. So the women are playing that regular season finale on Saturday night. Vic Schaefer is going to do the same thing. 10,000 fans in. He'll donate $10,000 to Neighborhood Longhorns. That's a day-night doubleheader with the men. But by the time that game rolls around Saturday night, it could be for the outright Big 12 title, or if they take care of business, at least a share, like they did last year, of the Big 12 regular season title.
Right, and all the regular season play for is just for seeding in the tournament at this point. That starts March 7th. That's a Thursday through a Tuesday is when the women play there in Kansas City. And then, like we were saying, the men take over after that.
Yeah, and they'll get the double bye regardless. So the women won't play until Friday of the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City. So they'll have almost a full week between games.
Which is a lot easier of a schedule than the men's tournament.
Yeah, well, women, if you're in the same boat, if you're in that,
right,
11, 12, 13, 14, you're staring down. But again, we joke about 5 games, but probably not realistic because you're in that first day for a reason. You finish at the bottom of the conference.
If you're an 11 seed riding a wave to a championship, then that's...
If you win 2, you probably had a great trip to Kansas City.
Yeah. Yeah, have some good barbecue up there too. All right, so moving over to the men's side here, they're in a bit of a precarious position. They're still tied for ninth in the conference, 6-8 with Kansas State, just coming off of just getting blasted by Kansas. I mean,
Very similar to the Houston game.
Yeah, very similar to the Houston game. But I mean, at some point, I kind of thought that would happen. Kansas is almost unbeatable at home, like Houston's unbeatable at home.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's just kind of a tough place to play. I mean, you don't go into Allen Fieldhouse and win very often.
Well, yeah, they were 8 at the time. Houston now number 1. That final trip for Texas, they'd only won there twice in 20 years going in.
Yeah.
But I think the alarming part for Texas is, unfortunately, this guy, Max Abmas, has really struggled the last 3 games since he had a big game against West Virginia. I did the math. He hit 5 threes in that game where he played 30 minutes, and since then he's hit 2 threes in over 120 minutes. So whether it's teams defending him differently with big guys, whether he's just wearing down a little bit towards the end of the season, but he hasn't been out of double figures the last 3 games, and coincidentally Texas hasn't gotten out of the 60s in the last 3 games. Not saying that's the reason, but you need that firepower from Max Abmas to allow everything else to flow a little freer as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's certainly a big reason why they haven't been able to put up, their usual 78, 80 points. I mean, that's just facts. Like that's what we operate in news.
And he's going to have a tough one tomorrow night.
Yeah,
because Texas Tech, they play tough defense, and of all the schools that want to send Texas out of the Big 12 with a loss, it's in Lubbock tomorrow night at the top of that list.
Oh, yeah.
And I get it's a little different now that Chris Beard's not at Texas, and now it's a whole new regime there with Grant McCasland, but still, those fans started camping out a couple of days ago for this one. So for them to not fall 3 games under 500, even though Tech's coming off a pretty significant loss at Central Florida, they're going to have to put together one of their best efforts probably since Oklahoma on the road.
When you talk about Texas Tech, I mean the track and field team didn't do Texas as a whole that many favors from what they post on social media about the Red Raiders the other day when they went up there and won the indoor track championship.
Yeah, the women won.
The women did. The men got third, but when the women won, they posted the Joey McGuire "Everything Goes Through Lubbock" speech, and then a bunch of pictures of them throwing up the hook'ems and with their trophy.
That social media department in Lubbock, they don't care about any repercussions or anything.
Classic troll job. So on the men's side, 2 weeks left of the regular season, as we're talking about how they have their conference tournament staggered a little bit. Texas Tech on Tuesday, we've been saying that's a tough one. They come back home to play Oklahoma State.
Suddenly looking tougher.
Right.
They get beat at the buzzer in Bedlam to Oklahoma. They've had some better wins. And again, now you're talking about Texas today. They go on the bubble with the ESPN and Joe Lunardi. They go as one of those 4 last 4 buys. So now you're looking at a double-figure seed. You got to get some wins. And we've sat here for the last month talking about the projections. Yeah. Well, got to get wins.
Right.
I mean, they're sitting here 2 games under 500 in the conference. What are you going to do in the conference? And I think one of the problems is Abmas has worn down a little bit, but you haven't seen anybody else. I think Kendall Weaver you probably have to call your most improved player from the start, but you haven't seen a lot of those, the growth from November to now with this team, and so therefore they're kind of stuck on this treadmill of get 2 below 500, find a way to get a win. Even the K-State game, that was such a grinder last week.
That was,
to get that win. So, and again, they're capable. They've done it before. And Shaka Smart took a team to Lubbock, I think, way back, I think in 20, I think right before COVID, and they won out there. And a lot of people were surprised that win. So it can be done, but it's going to be a monumental task to do that. Their confidence can't be real high right now, and that place is going to be up for grabs.
It's going to be absolute nuts in there. So you got Texas Tech tomorrow, Oklahoma State Saturday here in town. Then they go up to Waco, take on Baylor. Always a tough place to play.
They beat them at the buzzer here, so now you got to do that, and then you come home and you close it out with Oklahoma.
Yes. Yeah.
You could say they're all winnable in this conference. I think Houston was going to be really tough. I think Kansas was going to be really tough on the road. I think the rest you can say they're winnable. They didn't have to go to Hilton. They didn't have to go to Ames this year.
Sure.
But again, you drop 3 of these last 4, and you might be in Dayton, depending on what happens in Kansas City or worse.
Honestly, if they lose 3 of the last 4, I think they'd be lucky to end up in Dayton.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, that's because you're getting down to the part of the season where everything's a must win. I mean, it's we get the cliche of every game's an NCAA tournament game at this point. It is
I think if they get to 19.
Yeah.
They get to 19. That's 2 more wins. The way the projections have gone all year, probably get in. But again, that also falls into what happens in other conference tournaments and things like that. But it just hasn't been a year where it seemed like they've really been able to get into that next gear where they can, bunch up a few wins.
Yeah, they've been pretty much stuck in neutral, especially throughout the Big 12 season. 6-8 in the Big 12, 4 games remaining. First round of the conference tournament, March 12th, and then that goes through March 16th, and then we get into March Madness, or late March Madness as it is now. But yeah, I mean it's winning time for the Longhorns. They gotta get to it.
No doubt, and it's another tough road turnaround. You get home late Saturday night from a really difficult loss, and then they're back on a plane on Monday afternoon rather for Lubbock. So again, if they could figure out a way to steal one in Lubbock, that would be a huge win. Obviously.
Yeah. Yep, that would be big, and that is an 8 p.m. tip. That's what they used to call Super Tuesdays.
Yeah, that wasn't with the Big 12, so ESPN, throw all those monikers out.
Yeah, that'll be on ESPN if you catch that. I'm sure Rodney, Terry, and the boys would appreciate you watching. They need all the support they could get. Another big set of wins over the weekend, the UT baseball team. They sweep Cal Poly non-conference season, but they did it by not allowing any runs the entire series. They haven't done that in quite some time, Roger.
Yeah, I mean it's impressive. Cal Poly's a team that beat Missouri in a game. They played 3 against Missouri. 1 rained out. They won. They won 1 out of 3. Won their midweek game. But I don't care who you're playing at this level. If you can put up 27 innings of shutout baseball, that's pretty impressive. And then they had to scuffle on Friday night to help LeBaron Johnson Jr. feel comfortable because they didn't put many runs on the board. And Jacob Wright is a left-hander for Cal Poly. He's really good. And then Bats woke up a little bit with the long ball Saturday and Sunday. But now they get 1 more tomorrow night against St. John's before going down to Minute Maid Park. But I know David Pierce is happy to see, especially LBJ, after his first outing was not in great form, and then Charlie Hurley looked a lot better. And now they got to figure out if Tanner Witt can get some innings maybe tomorrow night against St. John's or what they do with him. But Cody Howard threw 5 shutout innings. He scattered a bunch of hits, but and then the bullpen took care of the rest.
No, yeah, the bullpen looks pretty good, and I thought kind of Howard's sort of continued emergence as sort of that Sunday guy potentially, if Tanner can't get to that level where folks here are used to seeing. I think Cody can kind of fill that role in pretty admirably for him.
Yeah, that was Gage Boehm. He was one of the relief pitchers that came in, and this guy, Billy, I thought he'd have a big year, and I may be right, I may be wrong, but right now he is. Jared Thomas splitting time between first and center field, and Peyton Powell, that was a big get to get him back, and he had 2 home runs on Sunday. And then the guy we saw the first home run, that's the guy they've been waiting for, Max Ballou, the sophomore, didn't have a hit the first 4 games, and now he's got a couple of home runs and feeling pretty confident. So, the guys they got to get going are the guys you thought, okay, you can count on.
Sure.
Porter Brown, first team All Big 12, Jack O'Dowd, who played well at the end. Those guys are really struggling at the plate, but other guys are picking them up. They're not hitting the cover off the ball. It's been some timely home runs over the weekend.
Yeah, that third game against Cal Poly, like we said, that's when they really started crushing it, hit those 4 home runs. Peyton Powell hit a pair of them that day.
Yeah, pitching starts to run out a little for Cal Poly.
Yeah, but still a nice, season finale or series finale for them anyway.
Yeah, and they move up a little bit in the rankings. And,
Yep.
and then this weekend's going to be interesting. I mean, LSU Friday night's going to be an incredible atmosphere at Minute Maid Park. Saturday afternoon against Texas State. And then they've got that 11 a.m. start against Vanderbilt. I did the 11 a.m. against Vanderbilt at Globe Life a couple years ago, and it was dreadful. I think Vanderbilt scored like 9 in the second, and I'm sitting there with 7 innings to go, and you already know how it's going to end before, and so see if they can get off to a better start.
At that point, you're just trying to figure out how to fill time.
Yeah, exactly. So. Yeah, and then Aggies come to town next Tuesday, and it's off to Lubbock.
Yeah, we've talked about this big stretch earlier on this program for the baseball team, and the rubber's about to meet the road. As soon as they get to Houston, they're gonna find out how good they are.
Yeah, they got 7 games from March 1st to March 10th, and 6 are ranked teams, and 3 of them are in the top 10. And then Texas State, that's always a good matchup.
Oh, yeah.
And Tech is not ranked in the top 10, but they might be by then. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, we'll find out a lot. And then they get a non-conference against Washington. So, it's not like right into the Big 12 weekend after weekend.
The Washington team's pretty good, too. So you mentioned the rankings. Texas moves up to 15. They move up 1 spot in the D1
Baseball America 13.
Baseball America's got him 13
somewhere
in there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just a really nice pitching and defense forward kind of a set of wins there against a Cal Poly team that plays in a tough conference. That Big West is no joke.
Right.
Like they're good baseball out there.
Yeah, and they're a veteran team. They got a lot of guys that have played a lot of baseball. So, just because of the name, sometimes that kind of makes you roll your eyes. But just like the San Diego team, I think was a pretty good team. I think they had some good wins over the weekend. I can't exactly remember, but and honestly, does it matter that much because they're going to have such a tough road in the Big 12? But I know the coaches are obsessed with the RPI for tournament seeding and things like that, and obviously the 2 big numbers are 16 and 8.
Yeah,
hard to believe we're talking about that in February.
I know, right? Yeah.
But that's just the reality of it. Again, a lot of these are wins that don't help but would hurt, and so that's probably where the San Diego loss falls. So good start as far as wrapping up this homestand on Tuesday night against St. John's.
Yep, 6:30 first pitch at UFCU Disch-Falk Field against St. John's, who beat Florida first game of the season this year. Right. So, I mean, they're not going to come in here and lay down.
No, and Stony Brook beat LSU the other night. So college baseball. I talked to David Pierce about that, and he says it's all about the guy on the mound, obviously.
Sure, yeah.
And it doesn't matter what the name on your uniform. You got a guy that can throw it well, and you got a chance. So pick up wins wherever you can get them, and get ready for Big 12.
Yeah. All right, well, we'll end it right there. Thank you so much for watching the Horns Report. For Roger Wallace, I'm Billy Gates, and we'll talk to you again very soon.